Welcome to this week's edition of Mississippi Happening Podcast. My name is David Oles, and joining me each week is my friend, my sometime antagonist and co-host, Mr. Jim Newman. Jim, how are you, buddy?
Doing fine.
Good.
You got a new pair of glasses.
As a matter of fact, I did. I broke my other ones, and look at this. Isn't that neat? Do you like
Mr.
them?
Magoo.
Excuse me?
You look like Mr. Magoo.
Who is Mr. Magoo?
Well, that's right. You're younger than I am.
Sadly, I do remember Mr. Magoo too. But anyway, well, thank you. How's the arm? I got to ask about the arm, and I got to ask about the PT.
It's getting better. The PT's getting worse.
Mm,
The more I do, the more they think I ought to do. So,
Well, you know what that means. It means you're giddy.
I'm going to change PT, people.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, good. Last week and the past few weeks have been extremely unsettling for all of us, and it's been kind of scary. The assassination of Charlie Kirk and the assassination of Minnesota Democrat leader Melissa Hortman, her husband, and yes, her dog in her home, and the attempted assassination of Senator John Hoffman and his wife, also in their home. Now, that was an attempted assassination on the Hortmans. So this week, we want to talk about the volatile state of politics today, and hopefully we can maybe come up with some answers and maybe some things that we could possibly do. Our guest today is my friend, my buddy, and I love to talk politics. I love his collection of everything political, and you see it in his office, is Dr. Nathan Schrader. Nathan, it is so good to see you.
Well, it's good to see both of you. In fact, I'm looking forward to my next visit to Mississippi in a few months.
Yes, come on. We got to, you can stay at my house or you stay at Jim's. Isn't that right, Jim?
Absolutely.
There you
My
go.
doghouse is still available.
Well, I was going to say, depends on who's got the best room and board costs.
Well,
Jim,
it depends on what you like to drink.
There you go. But I guarantee you, Jim is going to have better alcohol.
You got that right.
Than I do. But let me tell you guys a little bit about Dr. Nathan Schrader. He is a Pennsylvania native. He serves as the associate professor of politics. He's the co-director of the Center for Civic Engagement in New England at New England College in New Hampshire. He spent 8 years as chair of the Government and Politics Department at Millsaps in Jackson. He was also a political analyst for WJTN in Jackson, Mississippi. He previously worked as an intern in the U.S. Senate, the legislative aide, deputy communications director for the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, and a legislative aide in the Virginia House of Delegates. He has been very active in politics, in political campaigns since the age of 14. And I mean, that you got the bug early, didn't you, buddy? You got it early and kept it. He has been a member of the Pennsylvania and Mississippi Democratic State Executive Committees and vice chair of the Hinds County, Mississippi Democratic Party. He currently serves as the on the executive committee for the Manchester, New Hampshire Democratic Party, and also the New Hampshire Democratic Party State Committee. So, Nathan, once again, it's so good to have you with us. This is a and I'll just jump right in and we'll just kind of start it off. What are your thoughts about what's going on in America Day and the political? What talk to me. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, look, unfortunately, it feels as if the country is becoming somewhat is becoming ungovernable in a way. That there are individuals in charge of key centers of power in Washington D.C. and the Trump administration who seem that as if their objective is not to govern the country, it is to undo the governance of the country, and it's to make the country conform to sort of their philosophies about the power of government and who should be in charge of government, which in their view is one singular person, and that's Donald Trump. And that has made the country, in my view, in the last several months, feel and appear to be ungovernable. That it's impossible to make deals as you could in the traditional sense of the word in American politics. It's hard for the two parties to make deals with each other to say keep the government funded, to get certain types of programs passed, because you don't know what this really volatile president is going to do to gum up the works in Washington. So we went from having a semi-functional government in Washington that was deeply flawed but still able to occasionally get things done, to having one that is really governed by the whim of one individual who believes that everything is owed to him and he owes nothing back in return. And so I'm normally not much in the way of being a pessimist, but I feel that I'm becoming one because right now there's so little pushback from the courts. There's so little pushback from Congress. And at times I wonder where in the heck is the Democratic Party's and I don't want to say where's their message, because I think they'll eventually find that, but it's almost like, where's their courage to stand up when and not just put out press releases. And it's kind of given me this feeling that we've got trouble in front of us now, trouble ahead, and we all have to do our best to get through it to save the country.
Gotcha. When you I'm glad you brought up, I'm kind of like you, and I think Jim will agree. It appears and we know that Republicans they're whatever Trump says is going to happen. But have we really seen any pushback from the Democratic leadership? And have we seen any pushback from them? What are they doing?
So, David, David and Jim, this is the part that's really frustrating, is to see that I think there are individual rank and file members of the Democratic caucus in the House and in the Senate in Washington, and I think dozens and hundreds maybe of activist groups all over the country that are supporting the Democratic Party and want them to be the alternative. But it doesn't seem as if the people leading the party right now, at least at the national level, they haven't found their voice yet in this. It's almost that they're very timid at a time when we can't afford the timidity. But I don't want that to be a reflection on. I want to be careful that I'm not singling out those groups of activists all over the country that are holding the protests, that are rallying, that are registering voters, and some of our state, county, and then city and town Democratic Party organizations. I think they're doing what they can, but until we get the leadership of the national party in the House and the Senate and the DNC to sort of turn up the heat on the president and on the Trump administration and stop trying to treat this as if it's a normal time in politics, I don't think it's going to get better. But I do want to say those individual organizations and individual members of Congress and state and county party leaders out there, I think they're trying. They just don't have the tools they need right now, with the Republicans holding the White House, the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court. And the thing is, the longer the Trump administration goes on, there'll be more federal judgeships at the appellate level that Donald Trump will fill on the district courts and the Court of Appeals. So the courts, whatever independence the courts have, I think will gradually start to slip away as he starts to appoint more of his people to the upcoming vacancies.
Jim, weigh in on this and the Democrats. What are your thoughts, Jim?
I don't like the Democrats.
Oh, come on, Jim.
I don't like the leadership. I think the leadership is gutless. I know in Mississippi, I think I'm safe saying that, we don't have any leadership, but some counties are working very hard to get people registered to vote, but then they don't have any plan to follow up to see if they actually did vote. So my question then is, well, why bother to register people to vote if you're not going to back it up and follow up and call them and find out? Call them maybe the day before and say, tomorrow you vote, and then call them the day after and say, did you vote? Or if it's a primary, get the primary election results and see who voted, see if people who you got signed up. I think there's a lot of talk and not a lot of action from the national and state levels of Democratic parties across the nation.
I'm glad that you guys brought up the smaller organizations and the grassroots issues. We talked to Mississippi Indivisible, and that group is on fire. Last night, I was fortunate to attend a meeting with some Democrats, and I've got to say, and I've got to brag on DeSoto County Executive Committee. They have done a tremendous job getting registered voters. And then recently they elected, the first Democrat in Horn Lake as mayor, Reverend Jimmy Stokes. And so there's a lot of, there's a lot of the grassroots, and yes, it seems to be that there needs to be more something at the state level, and also at the national level as well.
But it seems to me like 2 weeks ago at a press conference, and I can quote that so-and-so verbatim, I'm the president of the United States, and I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, on the tarmac before he took off, he referred to the left as left radicals, scumbags, and worse. You want to wonder why nobody wants to work with him?
Yeah.
From the Democratic side?
Yeah. Well, and Jim, just on top of that, I read a statement by Senator Schumer this morning. I think he said it yesterday. He's, of course, the Democratic leader in the Senate, minority leader in the Senate, about how he thinks that it's possible to work with the Republicans in a bipartisan way to avoid a government shutdown. And I just said, well, I wish that was true, but this is not 1998 anymore. It's 2025, and the country, this is not the same country it was politically as it was in the 90s when that was manageable and that could happen. And I feel like people like him are the ones who are, they're kind of whistling past the graveyard and are looking beyond the fact that, Jim, like you said, Trump said, I can do whatever I want. Remember, this goes back to what he said at the 2016 Republican convention in Cleveland when he accepted the nomination. He went through the whole list of all the problems that were not real problems, ones he created, and say, remember, and only I may fix it, or only I can fix it. And this is just an extension of that. And I just had a class this afternoon here at New England College where we were talking about the ramifications of what's happening right now in American politics since the murder of Charlie Kirk on the long term of democracy. And I was telling the students about how I don't want them to think that what they're experiencing now is normal, because I'm afraid they're of an age right now between 18 and 21, 22, where they're going to look back and say, well, this is, I guess, what politics is always like or normally like. And I played them a clip from PBS NewsHour last night where Donald Trump had said that some of these, as you said, these liberal, lunatic or organizations, he said they're already under investigation. They don't even know it yet. And then yes. J.D. Vance says we're going to use the power of the federal government to go after the liberal leaning organizations. This is what the fringe has wanted for a long time. Sadly, the murder of Charlie Kirk feels like the moment they've been waiting for to launch this sort of full scale McCarthy style assault on the liberal organizations and Democratic Party leaning organizations. And it's sad that this is what it took to do it, but I think they now have their moment and they can't turn back.
And it's sad that we have to remember, and we try to remember. Yes, he was now none of us agreed with anything that he said. However, he was married. He had a wife. He had 2 kids, and he had a family that loved him. And that's also at the same time, Democrat leader Melissa Hortman and her husband, they had a family that yes. loved them. And also he's going after just people because he doesn't agree with them. And the thing that's frightening for me is, he's sending, I live in DeSoto County. I live in Olive Branch. 10 minutes away is Memphis, Tennessee. And the National Guard will be in Memphis next week. Mm-hmm. We know they were in D.C., and we know how that turned out. My fear, and there's a lot going on, and also DeSoto County Sheriff's Department, they've also they're going to support Donald Trump and the National Guard and everything that they can do. But it scares me, and I have to ask this question: is Donald Trump, and he's targeting the black cities, he's targeting the cities with black leadership, but is he setting the stage for martial law if something happens in the midterms?
David, that's a difficult question, because on just knowing his track record, knowing his viewpoints when it comes to race relations in America, and knowing his deep desire to hold power for as tightly as he can, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that that's possible. I just can't tell if that's really if this is more of a display, him putting on a display of his power and a show of force, or him foreshadowing what could happen should his party lose. I will tell you, there's actually something I'm also rather concerned with right now. Is he went through this phase where he was talking about running for a 3rd term.
Yes.
And, they're even selling Trump 2028 merchandise, right? And look, I've been on some radio programs here in New Hampshire talking about that. And there seems to be a consensus among Democrats and Republicans up here alike that, that's just his bluster and that's just it. I believe there's a real possibility that there could be a legal challenge brought to the Supreme Court, go all the way to the Supreme Court between now and late 2027, early 2028, with Donald Trump, if he's still alive and well. I think the courts could rule with him. He's got the majority on the Supreme Court. That has occupied more of my thinking. It would be the undoing of the Constitution to allow for Trump to seek another term. I've been thinking along those lines more than what you're describing as the possibility of martial law. I'm not ruling that out. It's not been really where my headspace has been on this.
But if that happens and the Supreme Court says it's okay, would that not require an amendment to the Constitution? And that would require probably 2 or 3 years of the states having to vote. And in the meantime,
Jim, yes is the answer, but the way that he has the full ownership, lock, stock, and barrel of the Supreme Court, look, that's what the process is supposed to do. That's how it's supposed to work. I'm not convinced that that's the way it would work if it meant saving Trump or allowing Trump to seek another term. That the courts would take some extraordinary action to rule the amendment unconstitutional or illegal. Not that they necessarily can do that with an amendment that's already in place, but I'm just not convinced that the court will be there to save the day should the worst come to pass.
I guess the other side of that coin would be, okay, now Barack Obama, and we've all seen the memes, okay, then Barack Obama gets back in the race and you know what, then everybody would go nuts and say, oh no, it's okay for Trump to do it, but Obama can't, that type deal.
Right. I think, and I think that's probably, but Trump's, I think I've heard a Republican member of the House or the Senate weigh in on that same question, David, and I forget who it was now. This was a few months ago, and they said, no, we would make sure that this only applied to Trump. And I don't know how they would do that, but just so you know, that's the way they're thinking about this. But these aren't rational, logical thinking people. But at the same time, look, I'm going to give credit where credit is due, even though I vehemently disagree with them. They know how to work the levers of power to get what they want.
Absolutely. And
Nathan, I'm interested in what do your students think?
Look, I'm really so this is something I can say this about the students that I have taught when I taught at Millsaps for 8 years in Jackson, and this is the start of my 4th year already here in New England College, and I taught as an adjunct in the Philadelphia suburbs prior to Millsaps. I've always been blessed with very thoughtful students who don't engage in the kind of what I call the Bush League tactics that we see on television sometimes, the shouting each other down and not willing to talk or listen to one another. I've been very fortunate not to have that happen with my students. And whether it's in the classroom or when we go to see as little class trips, we go to see candidates and speak, and we go to debates, and I've not ever. So I'm very pleased with the students I've had past and present who've demonstrated to me that they are more than capable of handling complicated, difficult issues that require maturity and reason to get through. And I know that's not on every campus, but I've been very fortunate with it. So let me tell you what I'm hearing right now. I'm hearing from students who are incredibly, first of all, concerned about the future, Democrat, Republican, and Independent alike, but also ones who feel that they are going to have a hard time getting ahead, that they are going to have a hard time matching the quality of life that their parents had or that their grandparents had, because the economic opportunities are dwindling. There's not, and I had a discussion with a class the other day, 2 weeks ago. We were talking about defining the American dream. What does that mean? And one of them had brought up about retiring, and a few of them laughed and they said, we're never going to get to retire. And then I tried to explain to my grandfather, who worked for U.S. Steel for 40 years, about a pension program that he was in. And one of them actually said, Dr. Schrader, what is a pension? And I said, this is why I think I feel bad. I just feel for them, because I think they're deeply concerned about whether they're going to have the same opportunity to achieve the American dream that prior generations have. And they talk about that a lot.
That was one of the things that I think attracted Charlie Kirk to so many college students.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're very pliable when they're in their 18 to 22 age group. They can listen to various, I call them pundits, and they don't know what's the truth and what's not, because they have not been taught in high school or in the first 2 years of college critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes along with the outlawing of DEI. Has DEI affected you in any way?
Well, so I can tell you that it's affected, again, the way some of the younger students that I'm teaching feel that they say things to me like, well, will I no longer be able to take classes that study race and gender problems in America? Those kind of things. Even though it's not the curriculum right now that's necessarily being assailed by the federal government. It's the infrastructure, like the hiring processes, the support offices. Colleges in New Hampshire, the state legislature enacted something saying we can no longer have offices of diversity and inclusion here. That was a state law. They went along with the Trump administration and went further than they did. So but I think that we need to be, I think, we need to be reasonable about the fact that you're right. These are college students, high school students, college or young college students. They are impressionable. But they also, again, like I said earlier, this is the only politics they've ever known, right? Because this is when they're being socialized into politics. And my fear is, again, they accept what's happening is inevitable in our politics today, and that this is just the way it is, and it will always be this way. And that's what scares me a little bit, is that they're seeing what's happening and they're saying, this is just normal. This is just what we're going to have to live with. And that's frightening.
It's interesting what you said about your students. It echoes what Cliff Johnson, Ole Miss law professor, he was saying. This pretty much the same thing. Their fear is they're not going to be able to buy a house. They're not going to be able, to afford a house. And if we can get back a little bit on DEI, and our listeners and viewers have heard us talk about DEI, and maybe Nathan get your take on this. My fear with the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion, are we going back to segregation? And that's one of my fear. Are we going back to segregation?
Well, David, I think that's a fair question. I'm not sure if we're going back to segregation, but we're going back to we're going back to a period in which racial issues are simply maybe ignored.
Gotcha.
Which I think is a little different, right? But although I can tell you this morning, because I knew I was going to be talking to you all today, I was looking over some current things on Mississippi Today, which that website I try to keep up with. They do a really nice job with Mississippi issues. And I saw that Attorney General Lynn Fitch is apparently trying to appeal to the federal government to eliminate the ability of organizations to represent client or plaintiffs on civil rights violation matters. I mean, that is truly astonishing. That is, David, that to me is closer to returning to segregation than the DEI component on education. I think has more to do with just sidestepping and ignoring issues of race altogether and diversity altogether. What Lynn Fitch is proposing, I think, sounds a lot closer to returning to segregation to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I glanced at the article, but Jim, did you have something?
Well, it seems like historically what happens in Mississippi doesn't take long for it to start off in other states as well.
Yes. I was, Jim, this is something that I was explaining to a friend of mine here in New Hampshire that also follows our state legislature pretty closely here, that I said, right now, the Republicans and people think, well, New Hampshire's in the New England states. It's a lot different than Republican parties in other places. Well, the thing is, this is the most conservative politically of the New England states, and there's a heavy Republican majority in the House and the Senate in New Hampshire, and the governor is a Republican. We have something called the Governor's Executive Council, which is a 4-to-1 Republican body that kind of uphold the governor's agenda. So, but what I was explaining, I was trying to explain the politics of the Mississippi legislature to a friend here, and I said it's almost as if you could take, and I wish I was kidding about this, but I'm not. You could take the Republican caucus in the Mississippi House and put them here and trade them with the New Hampshire Republican caucus in the House in Concord, New Hampshire, and you would get the same types of legislation coming out of them. And it's hard. That's, to me, how the Republican Party has just become so homogenous, right? That there used to be this distinct, like, New England Republican Party, with the slightly more moderate Republicans in this area. That is no more. To me, it's a homogenous party that it does one thing, and it follows Trump, and it demands absolute agreement on all the policy issues.
Do you have a Republican supermajority?
I believe the House is the Democrats are down about that. So an interesting thing about the state House here, there are 400 members in one of the here. Yeah. So it's one of the tiniest states. And so we also have multi-member districts. Believe it or not, I'm represented by 5 different members of the state House where I live. I have 5 representatives in the House, and guess what they make a year to do this job?
How much?
They're in session they're in session longer than the Mississippi House and Senate. $100. So these are people who have jobs or they're fully retired, but they're expected to, on no pay, to do this job, and it tends to attract people, at least on the Republican side, they're very hard line partisan. Because that's they're more than willing to do the job, because that's how they can initiate their policy agenda.
Well, they can move to Mississippi and in their legislative positions make $40,000 or more.
Make 40, right?
Yeah,
right.
Plus
I don't know why they want to stay up there. Let me ask you, how's the maple syrup up there?
Look, it's delicious, and in fact, I'm sitting here in my campus office right now. 2 doors down from me is I'm in the humanities division in our building. Our administrative assistant, their father taps maple syrup from the trees in their on their property, and for Christmas last year, they brought all of us who our offices are in the building our own bottle. So yeah, that's it's delicious.
Are the tariffs going to affect maple syrup?
Well, so there was an article in one of the I believe it was the New Hampshire Business publication. It's not called the New Hampshire Business Journal, but it's something along those lines, talking about all of the areas in which the tariffs have already been affecting this state, and it's possible that that's going to be one of them. The other thing is, there's another article this week that tourism, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont rely heavily on Canadian tourism, and vice versa.
Sure.
Citizens from here going to Canada, but the report was that Canadian tourism over the last 6 months has declined about 40% coming into Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. And the governor here, who is a Republican, is the only governor in New England that won't renounce sort of Trump's policies on immigration and the tariffs. And what they've had to do is, at taxpayers' expense, send their own delegation of New Hampshire elected officials to Canada to try to smooth things over. And it's like all they had is their guy that's causing the problem, and they're now spending tax dollars from Granite State vote residents here in New Hampshire to go try to make things better with the Canadians that Trump has driven away. It feels like the Twilight Zone in a lot of ways, guys.
I think it is.
Yeah.
It's I am equally concerned about where this is all headed. I had a friend of mine, you may have known him, George Cochran, who was a law professor at Ole Miss.
Okay.
And came when Ole Miss integrated and had been a clerk for, I think, Justice Black. I may be wrong. And George used to say, change will only occur when people take to the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminds me of the founding of this country. The taxations, the British patrols, the unauthorized arrests, and the people formed their own little militias. And the next thing you knew, we had a war, and the British were getting beaten. Took a while, but they got beaten. And what did they get beaten for? They did not like having a king. They did not like taxation without representation. They did not like I guess, so many wealthy people and so many people that didn't have the wherewithal to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me that we could very easily end up with riots in the streets and guns being fired. And as much as I'm opposed to that, I can see that happening with a large number of people to save our democracy.
Well, but I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility, and that's why I'm over the last few days, the rhetoric surrounding the murder of Charlie Kirk has been so alarming. And I'm not just saying the rhetoric; I'm saying the rhetoric from you have some celebrating the man's murder, which I think is abhorrent, but then you also have the people on the right, like the president and the vice president, vowing retribution against the left, and we have no evidence yet that the suspect here that's in custody acted because of any liberal-leaning political motivations. The early stages of this thing, before an arrest was made, you had conservatives in the Trump administration and Trump himself alleging that this was some sort of a left-wing liberal a hit on Charlie Kirk. And it's like they're willing to ignore the facts and ignore the truth that I believe try to stoke to try to make, to inflame the situation so that it's worse, to that may lead us to the conditions that you described, Jim. That's what really worries me, is seeing how the country has reacted in the last couple of days. That the NFL all but 4 NFL teams holding tributes to this individual, and then the ones who didn't, they're getting pummeled on the internet over the fact they didn't. It's like a man has died here, and we still don't seem to be able to, as a country, have the nuance to say Charlie Kirk believed in some truly bigoted things, but that means we defeat him by debating him and proving him wrong, not by the barrel of the gun. And I feel like we're missing the idea we can both things can be true at once, right? He had truly despicable views about race, gender, immigration, folks who are non-Christian or people not of no religious faith, right? But at the same time, we all can agree that what happened to him is unacceptable in a democracy. But I feel like people can't bring themselves to say both. You know, that's and it's really scary to see that part.
It seems to me that the young man that did the shooting he had a roommate, and it was a LGBTQ type relationship. And the young man, in my opinion, had some grievances. I mean, that LGBTQ community has not been well treated by the Trump administration or by any of the states as well. And I think the kid lost it. Mm-hmm. I think he just decided that his lifestyle he just couldn't live that lifestyle. He could not face the treatment that he was going to receive the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to do something.
Tonight in DeSoto County, in Hernando, which is a county seat, there is a meeting. One of the aldermen has proposed that one of the main streets in Hernando be renamed Charlie Kirk Boulevard. So there will be a lot of discussion there. Sadly, I won't. I won't be there. I have enough prior commitment, but I would be there, and I would be very opposed to that. Let's get back a little bit to Mississippi.
Why would you be opposed to that?
Number one, because of his beliefs. Because of Charlie Kirk's beliefs, what he said, it's wrong. And once again, no, I hate that he was murdered. I hate that he left a family, but it's wrong. Getting back to a little bit about in Mississippi, and Dr. Schrader, I'm glad you brought that up about Lynn Fitch. In Mississippi, it's horrible what we are seeing. Our governor, Tate Reeves, well, let me ask you, Jim, what do you think about Tate Reeves sending the National Guard to D.C.?
I think he would have been better off to send them to Hattiesburg or Jackson, which have higher crime rates than D.C. does.
Oh. Are you saying that National Guard should be used as policemen and to fight crime?
No, but if you're going to do it, send the Mississippi troops to places in Mississippi that could use the additional manpower. I know a number of cities that would love to have the National Guard come in and plant flowers and do raking and clean up leaves and trash, etc.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But it's go ahead, Dr. Schrader.
No, I that's not what I was expecting you to say on that one, Jim. But I do want to say with Governor Reeves and other Republican governors around the country, who have capitulated to the Trump administration and sending the guardsmen from various states to do things that the Guard's not really structured to do. It's all, to me, part of the political performance that they have to continuously prove over and over again that their undying loyalty to Donald J. Trump. That is not about the states or the country or the guard or the people in those places. It's about, they have to just keep, yes, Mr. President, we're going to do whatever you say. We want to stay on your good side. It just feels like this continual effort to prove themselves sufficiently loyal to the boss. And in America, we don't have the boss. We have the president of the people.
Why do I don't?
Lately,
I don't understand that.
He's started to enjoy blowing up boats in the Gulf of America.
Well, what David, you just said you don't understand. I think here's the part I struggle to understand. Okay, we have a president with what I looked at his approval, the latest national poll, and I forget whose poll it was. That his approval rating at 38%. Right, his popularity has declined by like 20. His approval rating has declined by double digits since he took office. He's tanking the economy. The tariffs are immensely unpopular. Most of his legislative program, if you can call it that, his executive order program, I guess, and the big, beautiful, bad bill, very unpopular. Plus, let's just go along with the idea that he's term limited. He will be a lame duck very soon. He's wasting his political capital. Why in the world some of these Republicans continue to give him everything he wants and more when he is in no position to demand that from them? That they're the ones who are going to be around probably in office a lot longer than he will. Yeah. And they're capitulating to him. That's the part that I struggle to comprehend.
I cannot for the life of me understand that. How does he have this power over them? Why and how and what power? What does he have on them? And that just, it's frightening because I just can't understand it. What does he know about them that we don't know? And why are they acting like that?
Well, David,
yes.
The Epstein files.
Yeah.
That's a good files. That's a good point too.
But also, I think they live in fear. There is this now deceased political scientist back in the 70s, and I had to read a lot of his stuff in graduate school, named David Mayhew. And one of the things he wrote about is he described it, and this was in the 70s, this was in a different era in politics. He described members of Congress as single-minded seekers of re-election, where the number one thing on their mind is how to seek re-election. And that's not a knock at, that they want to remain in power and be influential, right? So that's a rational thing to do. But at the same time, the current Republicans in Congress, I think, are so afraid of being unseated in a primary by someone who runs to, not necessarily to their right, but that just runs directly with Trump or alongside Trump, that they're deathly afraid of opposing him on anything or at any turn because of that. That's still, I think, his most powerful weapon is the unadulterated control of the Republican Party base. And that's why so many members of his party in Congress, even though they should no longer be living in fear of him, they are, despite lame duck status, despite poor approval rating, despite that very unpopular public policy. And look, and I don't mean to pick on the man's health and wellness, but I think he appears to be sickly. And I think he's showing signs of diminished mental capacity, but they are still deathly afraid of that voting base that he controls all over the country in every Republican House district. And I think that is what's keeping them at his side.
Oh, I love that quote that you just said. What was it? Single-minded.
Single-minded seekers of re-election.
Seekers of
Everything
re-election.
they do is, yes, it's sort of geared towards how do I keep my seat, and that was evident to this late professor back in the 70s. It's especially true now. If it was true then, it's definitely true today.
Absolutely.
Yes. The new legislators, newly elected legislators, they go through a little class on protocol, etc. And one of the things that they are told is that they need to spend 4 hours a day on the phone raising money.
Call time, right?
Yep.
Right.
Call time.
Yes.
Now it's text time. My phone just burns up with people I've never heard of from places I've never heard of.
Oh.
And they are the most well-meaning people running for whatever. And they want anywhere from $10 to $50 or,
yeah.
I mean.
No, and I'm starting, like you said, I used to get them just from candidates who were running in whatever place I was, whether it was when I was living in Mississippi, I get them from some Mississippi candidates. Then when I moved here, I was getting them from, now I'm getting them from candidates in Hawaii, California, Florida. And it's just like, you can't, very few voters or even like Democratic Party supporters have the bandwidth financially to support all these people who are bombarding us with text messages about fundraising. But it makes me think, Jim, to your point about the text messages, I wonder if the Republicans are using that exact same strategy, or they have something that's more sort of streamlined that's not like, it feels like with the Democratic fundraising, it's just sort of like, put it out there and throw it against the wall and hope something sticks and we get some money out of it. But I just wonder, though, if the Republicans are doing the same or if they've got a different strategy on that one.
I don't think the Republicans have to do it because the Republican Party is pretty strong. And as we talked a little bit about earlier, the Democratic Party lacks leadership and is not very strong. And when you're trying to raise money as a candidate and you're in a party that is perceived as not very strong, the potential of you winning is not very good. And why waste my money? And I don't know how we get around that, but Nathan, here in Mississippi, we have some people who are considering running for Trent Kelly's position, and they're well qualified. One of them who's thinking about it, you may know, is Cliff Johnson, the former U.S. Assistant District Attorney there in Jackson, and now at professor at Ole Miss and heads up the MacArthur Foundation. Extremely well qualified. And it's going to take a lot of money if he decides to run. It's going to take a lot of money. And in the first CD, we've got maybe 3 counties that have cities of 40,000 or more. And the rest of the place is a rural part of the first CD. So anybody that's going to run is going to have to really reach out outside of the first CD.
Yes.
And it just makes it really difficult when the national leadership is not as strong as I would hope that it might be.
Well, and I think I've been following Scott Colomb, in his entry into the U.S. Senate race. I think that's another candidate where anywhere else in the country, if you took somebody with the bio, the professional biography, and the personal abilities of Scott Colomb, he would be a a strong contender. But you're right, because of Democrats maybe not wanting to give in Mississippi because they don't think someone could win there. I hope he can also overcome that, because I think, will be an exceptional candidate.
Absolutely.
He is an exceptional candidate, and his dad, Will, is working, I think, full time to help him. And actually, if there's anybody in the Democratic Party that can raise money, it's his father, Will Cologne.
Yes.
Yeah, in Mississippi, we have our issues. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, Nathan is familiar with those. He lived here for a while.
Well, Jim and David, the thing that does frustrate me is that there are opportunities for Democrats to improve or succeed in Mississippi, but I feel that sometimes people in other parts of the country write off the Mississippi the Democrats just because it's Mississippi. But there are David, you just mentioned the new Democratic mayor of Horn Lake. You said mayor of Horn Lake is a Democrat, right?
Yes.
I think there are places that Democrats can win in Mississippi, but I think either some quality candidates feel that they'll be written off because they're Democrats and they don't run, or potential donors or supporters feel that, oh, wait a minute, this is an impossible state to win, or district to win, and so we're going to find somewhere else to spend our time and capital. But I think those opportunities I've long believed, ever since I was on the Mississippi Democratic State Executive Committee and as Hinds County Democratic Vice Chair, and on that committee before, as a committee member before I was Vice Chairman. I think those opportunities for Democrats are there in Mississippi, but it's got to take a joint effort. I think Democrats and independents in the state they've got to come. They're the only way to come together. For them to come together is the only way to, I think, push back on the Republicans. And the Republicans can raise a ton of money, as we know.
Right.
They seem to be able to do it quite easily.
Yeah. Well, as we wind this down, Jim, Dr. Schrader, Nathan, it was good to see you. Great to have you with us. We need to get together again, because this is just so much fun, hearing your experience. And I'd love to take a class. Yeah, I'll come to New Hampshire and take a class from you. So thank you for being with us. Jim.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yes. Jim, talk to us.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Were you on the executive committee when Mavis was executive chairman?
No, I wasn't.
No.
I wasn't.
Okay.
Jim, let's talk about money. Tell us about money.
I love to talk about money. You going to send me some crypto? Well, I guess not. Okay. It's the same old spiel. These podcasts do cost money, and David and I have been footing the bill along with a couple of other people, and we need more contributors to get to the break-even point.
Yes.
We're not interested in making any money out of this.
We did this for fun.
Well, okay, we do this for fun. I do it hoping to help educate people in rural Mississippi that don't have access to these kind of guests. I think when we talk to legislators and we talk to people who lead groups like PTA people, the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Leadership Conference, I think when we talk to those people, there's an opportunity to educate people. And
yes,
I think that's important enough that David and I and a few other people are contributing. If you would like to support this effort, David can tell you how. It's pretty easy.
Yes, absolutely. We have Cash. Yes, Cash App, which is the $, MS Happenings. The PayPal is at MS Happenings. And yes, we do have a website, and you can make donations at the website, and it is MississippiHappenings.org. So yes, we do want your donations. We do want your subscribers. We do want you to subscribe. We do want sponsors, but also we want to hear from you. We want to, what we're doing good, what we're doing bad, what we're okay. We want to know who you want us to talk to. We want to know who you want to hear from. So you can also reach us at mshappenings1 at Gmail, which is mshappenings, the number 1 at gmail.com. So, Dr. Schrader, good to see you. Glad to have you with us. Jim, Grumpy Pants, it's good to see you again. And and remember, may we never become indifferent to the suffering of others. Thanks so much.